Hello there, and welcome once again. Again, my name is Hisham Murad. I'm going to walk through a demo video on Red Hat's Ansible Automation Platform on Microsoft Azure. And in this video, I'm just going to talk about, once it's deployed, how you go about using it and automating against both Azure and being able to extend that into your hybrid cloud environment as well. All right, so without further ado, let's jump right in. As we saw earlier, once we've deployed in Microsoft Azure, you will see now a managed application. So this is a managed application, which means that it's managed by Red Hat, and you get to consume and leverage the deployment that you've just installed for automating your hybrid cloud environment. Okay, so we created that in a resource group. So I'll just go to the resource group. Again, we see the application that we just have just deployed, and once it is deployed here, I go to the parameters and output, and now I have the automation controller URL as well as the private automation hub URL. Okay, so let's jump in. Okay, so here we are. We're in Ansible Automation Controller, and I'm logged in. Actually, let me do this really quickly, just so you see this. We can actually log in via my Azure AD account as well. So I'm able to do single sign-on, obviously, here and log in with my Active Directory account. So I just wanted to show you that. So here we are in the dashboard, and this very quickly gives me a snapshot of what's going on in the environment, how many hosts I'm currently managing, the inventories I have, how many projects I have. Typically those point to, GitHub repositories where you have all your automation code, right? Which is great, and I can see how many recent jobs have taken place. Now, the great thing about this is that because you're deploying this on Microsoft Azure, what we do is we're actually seeding this with some demo content for you to leverage and help you get started right away, right? So if you come into the project section, first of all, you're going to see something like Azure Demos Project. And as part of that project configuration, you can see where those demos are, and you'll also see associated templates that go along with that. So we want to get you started by having some of that seeded content. In addition to that, we also have, seeded execution environments. So execution environments are the containers that spin up and perform the automation, but we also provide you with one specifically called the EE Cloud Services. So this is a custom execution environment made or customized with the cloud collections. So cloud collections like obviously the Azure collection as well as the AWS collection, etc. So we really bring that in for you. And now, because you have all this, right, so this is very quickly allows you to get started. So as part of this, now you have all this great content here that you can start to leverage and consume. And just very quickly, like I've created some additional templates, and I also have some workflows here, but you can really get elaborate. So you can see here I have this Lambda development environment. This is quite an elaborate workflow, and a workflow basically allows you to take different playbooks which are configured in job templates and start to link them together. And you can have things like serial processing, you can have parallel processing of these different job templates. Also, you can have different conditions. If one template fails, what happens next, etc. So it gets really elaborate and very cool in terms of what you can automate and do here. So that's pretty cool. But if we just go back really quickly, I can we'll just kick one off just for grins, right? Just so you see that I have this one here, which is deploying some network infrastructure. It's doing some configuration management. It's deploying a Windows VM, etc. We can just go ahead and launch that one. That one is a workflow as well, but it's more of a serial. It's doing network automation. It's doing some configuration management, etc. So it's doing that end-to-end, a cloud deployment into my Azure cloud. So this is great, right? So you have all this content, right at your fingertips. You can go in and you start to build your content as well. But part of the Ansible Automation Platform is you have access to something called the Private Automation Hub. And that was that second URL, right? So now if I actually just switch tabs on you here very quickly, You can see here that I'm in Automation Hub, and I've already, previously logged in. Now you can see here I have Red Hat certified content. I wonder, oh yes, I have actually some published content that I've actually imported here as well. So this allows you to build and customize your own automation content. So we have some of our own custom content that we brought in there. And then here under community, I can also bring in any community content from galaxy.ansible.com also. Now, typically what happens is if I expand this, if I go to repository management, this becomes your local repository URLs for each of those folders. But also, this is where you go in and say, hey, I want to pull in content that's Red Hat certified from Cloud Automation Hub, right? I want to pull in a community content from galaxy.ansible.com. So it's just a matter of some simple configuration here, and you click on sync, and then we pull that information, and that populates the community and the Red Hat certified content here for you. Now, again, where does the certified content come from? It comes from the public automation hub. This is on console.redhat.com. When you go up there, you click under the Ansible Automation Services, and one of them is the Automation Hub. And so this is where I'm at. So you can go in and look under collections here, for example. You can see all the collections that exist, right? So there's like 131 of them. These also represent like over 50 plus different technology partners that we work with to bring this automation content right to your fingertips to make it really simple for you to essentially automate against your hybrid cloud environment. And so here we're starting with Azure, for example. Let me just pull it by name. So here if I type AZ collection, and then now I can see very quickly the Azure collection. So this is for the Azure cloud. Okay, and you can see it has 258 modules, a couple of additional plugins. So if I click on that, I can see here the install instructions. I've already synchronized it obviously into my private automation hub, but I can see the install instructions if I'm doing this from a command line. I can go into the documentation and start to look through all the different modules, right? So let's say I want to manage Active Directory users. I want to be able to do some automation around Active Directory users. I can go in here to this module and take a look, and it gives me all the different parameters that I could leverage. But if I continue to scroll down, and forgive me for going quickly, we actually give you easy to understand and consume examples as part of this as well. So as part of this certified, Red Hat certified content, right? Again, we work with these technology partners to make this type of content available, right? And it's not just that. Maybe I wanted to do some stuff with Key Vault, right? Maybe I wanted to do some stuff with Azure Kubernetes Services. Maybe I want to do something with MariaDB server, right? So you can see, in networking, Postgres, etc. Everything you can think of pretty much on, and automating in an Azure environment, you can really, do here. Maybe I want to do something with my private DNS zones, right? So you can go in and pull that content up and see, again, that content for the private DNS zone and the documentation as well as samples, below for that to make it really easy for you to get started. So incredibly powerful by making this available. Now, again, remember, we make this available for you as Red Hat certified content. You synchronize it into your private automation hub, and now you're able to actually consume that. One of the things that you may want to do, right? So as you start to automate and get deeper into automation, you may want to start to build and customize your own execution environments. Remember, we gave you that EE Cloud Services execution environment, but you may want to take that to the next level. You have some specific requirements. You're doing Cisco networking. You want to do automation against that. You have some NetApp storage environment and you want to do automation against that. You have some A10. You have some, Nutanix, right? You have some VMware vSphere environment. You have AWS Cloud. You have GCP Cloud. So you may want to be able to customize and build your own execution environments. And here as well, so I'm just switching over to the private automation hub. So this is once you've synchronize this information over. You have it here, but this is where you can now start to pull in and bring also any custom execution environments that you build and bring it into your environment also, right? So incredibly powerful. And that's really as easy as adding an execution environment. So once you've actually created an execution environment, you've stored it somewhere like on Quay.io or some other repository. Maybe you're using Azure repository or GitLab or GitHub, etc. Right? Wherever your repository is, right? You actually can pull that, your container registry is. You can pull those containers in to here, and then once you have them inside of the private automation hub, it's really easy to then say, hey, I want my Ansible automation controller to consume and leverage these in my environment. And it's a matter of me just saying, hey, use in controller, and it finds my controller, and then you just basically walk through this to go ahead and add that execution environment into your controller as well. So incredibly powerful in terms of what you can do. Now, the last thing I'd just like to mention is that, yes, you've deployed this on Microsoft Azure. So you've deployed AAP on Microsoft Azure. But remember, you can do automation against your Azure environment, but you can also leverage the same deployment to do automation in your private cloud, in other public clouds, at the edge, right? So we address all those use cases. Obviously, there's some networking configuration that you need to do, but that's pretty straightforward to do. And then you can take it that extra mile and again, automate against your entire hybrid cloud environment. And here I just showed you that this workflow that we triggered earlier finished and got completed successfully. So thank you so much for watching this video, and you all have a wonderful day.